And there's no one else here but us, so there's no attendees or anything. Did you were able to record?
No,
It's okay.
unless they have one. in technology.
Okay,
Sorry.
if we need one, I can go find one.
Or unless you want to sit on this side, Kristen, it's. a lot
That's okay.
closer.
No, don't switch. I will,
Okay.
it will last. It doesn't. leak them. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Listen, order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What are we don't need to do this for introduction since it's not a.
Right, just the work session. Mhm.
Okay, so. Can we just go into? Discussion?
We go right into discussion. So tonight you have Kristen Miles from OSBA with you. And Kristen will run the majority of the meeting, and then we have a couple of other things that we'll take care of in relation to goals and things like that. So Kristen,
Great.
off to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've seen most of you online. I've met a number of you, well, a couple of, hi, Maria. In person. It's so nice to meet you in person. I've been working, well, I've been working for OSBA for 6 years, and I think I've been working, Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong, with this board for almost that like time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you were one of my first boards and
And your
I-
favorite?
and my favorite, I love coming here. I always say, I work in Salem and I live in Twellston, and I always used to say I would just stop by on my way home. So, so thank you for having me as part of your scholarship program. You've done this a couple of times. Tonight, what we're gonna do, you've taken the self-evaluation, which we're gonna go through, and then we're going to talk about the program. You've got your self-evaluation in front of you. I have some questions for you. We're going to talk about it. My last question for you is going to be, what do you want to do with this? And so we're going to talk about, what the board wants to do with your professional development around that, because it's important to recognize your strengths, recognize the areas where you want to grow, and see how you want to integrate this in your plan for the coming year. And then we're going to talk about what you want to do for your project. And Dandy and I have been in touch about that. And Dandy, I will probably ask you to talk just a little bit about the content. Great. When you're ready to go. So the scholarship program, for those of you that haven't been through this before, you will design a project. We will co-create a project that impacts student achievement. And we will go through that over the next, tonight is planning, but we'll go through that over the next 3 sessions. And once you get done with that, there should be a takeaway from that. And either it's a plan for the board to, all along the way, we will ask, what is the board's role? So even though the district will be, likely heavily involved, we're going to keep asking, what is the board's role in moving this initiative forward? And you're going to keep planning for what's the board's role in these things. And at the end of that, when you complete this project, then you get a scholarship to divide among, well, to either give to a student or to divide between 2 or more students. So that's the incentive for the project. And how many times have we done this now? 2, 3?
2.
2? Okay, so this is the 3rd time. And this is great. This is great work. This is the time for the board to really engage. And we'll talk about that tonight and leave with a plan for how we're going to spend the rest of our sessions together too. So, so I've got, Sandra, is it possible to, I've got a few slides. Is it possible to either email those to you and show them, or to run them somehow?
If you want to email them to me,
Okay,
I can.
make sure I can get
I
on my,
will navigate that.
let's see. If I can do guest, is there a password or can I just connect?
You should be able to just.
Got it. Okay.
Sandra, are there pens that are on the desk? A pen, here. I don't use a pen.
Go. And set.
I have to log into my emails. Give me just
Sorry about that.
no worries.
See if I had gotten here at any sort of decent
All
time.
right. All good.
Oh, I create art to recommend. Oh,
I'm gonna close out my email. It's just loaded. There we go.
How long do I have tonight on your agenda?
You have pretty much the whole agenda. Okay, so, you know,
I
5,
know
6
you've got-
hours.
Okay, that's good. We can cover one in 5 or 6 hours.
Before it's like, excuse me.
I know you said you had a couple of things to,
Yeah, they're small.
okay.
They're not. Okay.
Okay, you want to adjourn around 8. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, perfect. So let's see, do you want me to click or do you need to click or what do
You
you?
should be able, well, you can take the keyboard.
Okay.
My apologies. You're fine.
Okay, so what I would love to ask you is, as you looked through everything, what did you see? Without making meaning of it, did anything stick out to you?
That we're all pretty effective.
Yep. Yep, you gave yourself pretty high marks. Anything else that sort of, that you just saw? Without interpreting yet?
I think the developing seems reasonable.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're a pretty new board.
Mhm. Mhm. And developing is never a bad thing,
I
right?
don't think it is.
Nope. You're making progress. Anything else that just you wanted to note that you observed?
Well, are we missing one? Did everybody take it?
No, we're missing one.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
You're missing me.
And were you able to take it or was it just for the board?
It was just for the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask then, in general, as you looked through this, so I just asked you what you saw. What do you think about it? Overall, what meaning did you make of it? What did you
I
think?
feel like it seems like we're all along the same page, like we're all kind of united in
Mhm,
how
mhm,
it's going.
yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what I.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that when I've seen other boards or I see some of that stuff,
Mhm,
it's really crazy. It can get like super out of control. And I feel like everybody here is respectful and is really trying to do the right thing and put the kids first. And so I kind of feel like it's it's reflective of that, you know, even being new and having a lot of things we're developing still, but.
Yeah. Yep.
But I agree with Angie.
Anything else that you felt was sort of meaningful or you interpret? Just overall, we're gonna dig into it a little bit. Not that,
I think the board
Oh,
is
yeah.
very relational,
yeah,
which I appreciate. I think that one of our abilities as the district to do so well during the pandemic
Mhm.
is because the people on the board are very connected to the community and they represent the community really well in terms of that relation aspect.
yeah.
Regardless of whether we all agree
Mhm.
what's going on, they still value being able to communicate and
Mhm.
respect each other's opinion.
What do you think was working? What looked to you like, what's working? You're doing well.
The culture and climate, I
Mhm.
think is, and the learning organization and the system thinking. Like, that's what I noticed is that we were all pretty. Well, actually, those were the only three where we didn't actually have a developing piece that needed to occur.
And then, so what then looked to you like it needed improvement? If anything.
The vision, directed planning, anybody jump in, I don't want to take over. Cause I talk too much, so.
And this is overall right now. We can, if you want, we can just be looking at that first page, because I'm gonna direct your attention to more specifics. So as you look at that like summary page, is there anything that stands out to you as like, we could spend some time on that?
What page?
It
Page
is
6 of your packet.
page 6, yeah. It's the aggregate data.
Oh, that's the one I was reading.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at it overall, it's so
Yeah,
evenly distributed. I mean,
yeah,
you have quite a few, you have quite a few new board members.
Yeah.
So to just have like 25% under vision, that's not bad.
no, not at all.
I mean, it's learning how to, that vision direct planning to me, it's how do we go out there and articulate that vision? I mean,
Yes.
it's like coming up with like those 5 words that I can remember, take to
Yes,
the community.
right.
And I'm horrible at memorization, so I'll tell you that now. I write everything down. So you know what I mean? I go back to stuff. So,
Mhm.
I mean, when I look at this though, it's like, as you said, we work well as a board.
Yeah.
We work well with the superintendent.
Mhm. Yep.
So there's not, it's very effective. I mean, that's when I look at this, that's what I see.
Right, right. Mhm. And then the last question I'll ask you is now, and you don't have to have any, but I just want to open it up for if you have any questions, like if anything stuck out to you as like, I wonder what whoever filled this out meant by this. Given that there's no big stark differences in what your summary data shows, I wonder if you would have any, but I always ask, do you have any questions for your colleague or something that you would want to address as we look at this? I just want to give you the opportunity to put that out there if you have any. And again, you don't have to.
On page 12, on question 20, where it says the board establishes and sustains relationships with community leaders, city and county government officials and state legislators. 2 marked the board as developing, and then 1 was effective, 1 was accomplished.
Mhm.
So I feel like we struggle in this area because we really don't have. I mean, we have the city council and then that's really it. Like, we don't have Kiwanis, we don't have chamber, we don't have Rotary. And so it's hard to know where else are the community leaders? Where are they?
Right.
I don't, that's a rhetorical question, because I don't know where they're at.
I think that's the challenge in town. As I've been saying.
Right.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
And so maybe that always, and you know, I don't know who filled out what, and you don't ever have to identify yourself. You know, I will always invite you to, like, if you filled out something, feel free to say, hey, I did this and this is why. That's how we sort of have a rich conversation. Maybe that always is, to the extent that we can, we do, right? And maybe some of that, you know, developing is, maybe there's more out there that we could be doing. That those things aren't as far apart as they look like.
I think that's fair.
And that's just a suggestion from your caring, disinterested third party, right? As I've always called myself.
I think we do attempt, you know, I mean, I think Maria and I going to city council and at least trying to talk to them about the bond is the kind of stuff that we're talking about, or when we're having conversations with, you know, constituents, just, you know, trying to let them.
Right.
You know, Maria went to the block party, I missed it, but she was at Ivy Woods, the new,
Very
at the
good.
new, you know, development. And, I mean, we try, I
Yeah.
think, like, as individuals, we try to be supportive of our community and answer questions when we can and
Yeah.
refer people to the superintendent often, and
Mhm.
then they have to make that attempt, you know, instead of just complaining. So,
Yes. So let's look at, so what I do then is I look at this too. And I look at what I see as what you identify as your strengths, your areas of improvement. I dig into those a little bit. And then the one thing that I have that you don't have is a congruence report, which is, you know, where are you aligned? Whether you rate yourself positively or negatively, where is your thinking aligned? And then where are you most not aligned? And you know, Dandy just pointed out one question here is like, well, what might that mean? Now, what I will say is this is a very positive self-assessment and there's very little misalignment, right? I have seen self-assessments that have all kinds of red all over them, and we have a different conversation when that's like that. You are rating yourselves very highly, which, you know, tells me that you think of each other and of yourselves as a positive, effective board, which is great. And so one of the things that I will suggest that you do as you look toward what do you want to do with this is, when you do have a very strong self-assessment, it's, you know, you look for areas of opportunity, but then it's like, how can we continue to build on our strengths too? Because we don't want to just walk away with like, well, we're doing really well, let's just keep it on, you know, like, sounds good. And like, you know, what are the things that we're doing now that we either need to refine or ensure that we intentionally continue? So, A, there's not a ton of misalignment, and B, you rated yourselves very highly. So a lot of green and blue here, which is great. So what I saw as your strengths are board member conduct, ethics, and relationship with the superintendent. That's roles and responsibilities, right? And that means that you know where you are, you know what your job is, you know that you are, you know, governance, not management, you know that you're policy and budget oriented, you know that you do oversight, you don't get into the weeds, and that you have a positive relationship with your superintendent and know the difference between her job and yours. This is interesting because not every board rates themselves high on being a learning organization. That's one of those sort of nuanced pieces that is sort of newer in the tool that we use. And I don't know if it says a whole lot about this in the tool, but this tool is entirely research-based and is nationally normed. And it is based on standards that have been shown through research to identify what the characteristics and behaviors of effective boards are that positively impact student achievement. So being a learning organization and being willing to engage in your own learning and renew that learning and setting that model for the rest of your organization is a positive thing that impacts student achievement. Not every board rates themselves high on that. So, so that's an innovative piece that you rated yourself high on. And then establishing a positive culture and climate. Again, that's a modeling piece that filters out into the rest of the district, and having high expectations for a welcoming culture and climate for the benefit of all students. So you rated yourselves pretty highly on those 3 things. Those were the highest rated things. So, and I highlighted this one for a reason. I'm going to get into that in a second. So because you rated yourself highly on most things, I wanted to get into the specific most highly rated strengths. And I'll do this for areas of opportunities too. But what you really felt like were your big strengths were modeling an empowering leadership style and a focus on student learning in alignment with your strategic goals, which is great because like if you're doing that this board has come a long way from when I started working with you, and it was an entirely different board. I remember like, and you know, different superintendent, and I remember coming in here and there was a beautiful poster of the strategic plan on the wall, and there was no monitoring being done of that strategic plan. So if you are looking at student learning in alignment with strategic goals, I think that's fantastic. Looking at your superintendent evaluation focused on monitoring progress on strategic goals. That's great. And I will bring back why I'm highlighting that in a moment. You know, the ethics of board members, not seeking personal gain and not speaking on behalf of the board. That sounds basic, but it's really important because when that goes awry, it causes problems. And somebody already mentioned this, and was it you that board members direct complaints appropriately?
Yes,
Again,
I've learned.
again, that's you know, that sounds pretty basic, but when that goes awry, it really goes awry. So, so really good specific strengths that you rated yourself highly on. So again, we'll come back to that highlighted one. Just remember that was about the superintendent focused on monitoring progress on strategic goals. So overall, again, you did not rate yourself super low on anything, but what you saw or what you identified as your overall areas of improvement were vision-directed planning. That was the one that that was pointed out as probably, I think that was the lowest rated. Again, developing is not bad, but just in terms of raw score. And then using data for continuous improvement and accountability. So my question to you will be, you mentioned in your strengths that you are aligning, you know, decisions with your strategic goals and strategic objectives. There seems to be maybe a little missing piece between that and then using data for continuous improvement and accountability. So I wonder if there's like what that might mean. If there's maybe a data piece where you as a board are not entirely sure what's being measured, or you're not monitoring in a way that applies what data the district is using to those strategic. I'm not sure, but we can dig into that and discuss that because obviously I don't know, but you might have an idea of what that might mean. So then specific areas of improvement, you want to better monitor strategic goals. And I'm guessing because the big category there was about data, which again is a great thing to want to do. The lowest one, I should put this at the top, was that you said that the board does not regularly establish performance goals for itself. This is what this is for. So you can do that from this tool. Communicating to the public how decisions are linked to student data. So as the idea is that as you are data literate, that as you work with your superintendent and her team to understand what's being measured and how that impacts student performance and how that helps you monitor your strategic initiatives, or strategic goals, pillars, whatever, then how do you communicate to the public how your decisions are linked to to what you do with those strategic priorities? And then promoting a vision beyond your current performance. You also gave yourself that as a specific area of improvement. Again, nothing rated super low. Nobody said never to anything, right? Nobody said that you never do anything. And anything that showed up was as on the low side, was developing, not a bad word. So what I'm gonna point out, what I wanted to point out was, so we're gonna go back. So you said that one of your strengths was that your superintendent evaluation was focused on monitoring progress on strategic goals, but that you felt that your weakness was monitoring progress on strategic goals. So that's what I wanted to point out, was that you feel like you do a really good job at holding your superintendent to that, but you don't feel like you do a good job holding yourselves accountable to that. So I just found that that interesting. And so there might be like a match there or something that, that we can work on.
But I think that part of that is because we are so new.
Mhm.
And so thinking of like, what goals are those for the board?
Yeah.
Versus how it's a lot easier to see how your decisions affect everything
Right,
else.
right.
Down to like personnel and
Yes.
getting for when we were talking about data, we have, the administrators that come in and give us, a
Mhm.
report or whatever, and they bring in information that on stuff I'd never even thought of or whatever. And so for the data stuff, I just have to, I have never been in education. I'm not familiar with all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I'm just a private citizen, you know what I mean? Trying to understand and read as
Mhm.
much as I can on these things. So like, there is a learning curve.
Yes.
So like just trying to figure out all that stuff. And then on top of figuring out as a board,
Mhm.
what those goals are, it's like, it is,
Mhm.
it's a lot.
Yes. And there's a difference between how your superintendent does it and how you do it,
Correct.
right? Like there's it's always, what's the board's role? Like we always return to the question, what is the board's role? And that's going to be very distinct from what the superintendent's role is. So what I'm hearing, and my assumption too, is that Dandy and her team come in and they're actively monitoring what you have said and what you collaboratively have set as, here are the strategic priorities. There is regular reporting of progress against those priorities. Then the question is, so what's the board's role in ensuring that those things are happening? And that's what I see maybe you identifying for yourself as that is the learning curve. Maybe we need to know how to do what our role is. Am I hearing that correctly?
It's like, I have no idea how I would even help the board do that. I
Uh-huh.
don't know how. I know how to do my part.
Mhm.
Like I don't know how to,
Mhm.
I don't know what that looks like.
Mhm.
Well, imagine
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know.
Right,
So,
right.
like
Yeah.
private citizens that don't have a
Right.
background in that stuff.
yeah,
And frankly, there's a lot of misinformation in terms of what people think a board
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of function the board has.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We essentially do not have that at all. Because all of that is
Yeah.
happening for the superintendent and the
Right.
work that she's doing.
Right.
We don't have the kind of power that people in the
Nope.
community think.
No,
we
you do not.
It seems more like whatever is happening, because that is your job. That is what you guys have to do and you're getting paid to do. It's more kind of brought to the board so that we have knowledge of it, so we can then at least be able to communicate with the public about the knowledge of all the goings on, because there are so many pieces that parents don't know how much it takes to run a school.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And my favorite saying is, and I'm sure I've said it here many times, maybe Henry remembers this. Nobody knows what a board member does, and neither did you before you ran for the board.
Yep.
Right, nobody
No,
knows.
it's true.
They think of you as individual legislators
Mm-hmm.
that you can come to and make your case to, and that you will take it upon yourself to go and try and fix a problem and advocate, and you can encourage your colleagues and, et cetera, and, whatever. And that's not any sort of ill will in the community. It's just that nobody knows. what to do. And so that communication piece also, communicating to the public how decisions are linked to student data kind of goes hand in hand with some of these things. As like, when you communicate to the public how you're making decisions, there's also an opportunity there for education about like, and here's what the board does. These are our decisions and how we come to them, but here's the process. And here's what we don't do also.
On this, okay, so communicating that to the public, first of all, most of the issues that come up are personnel issues that people come to complain about.
Uh-huh.
It's not so much the student data unless it's, what's the gentleman that's always here? Linda. He complains because there's no training programs. If he would just listen, he would know that we have WACA. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's like there's two things that people complain about. One is that our students aren't educated enough and that we're not doing enough to help them get training program jobs or
Yeah.
train, you know what I mean, in that field. And then the other one is personnel stuff.
Yeah.
Where people are coming and complaining, and all I can say is, please go see the superintendent.
Right. You can't do that about
You know what I mean?
people. Right.
And so that's the kind of stuff that I'm always fielding.
Right.
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 Yeah. No matter, even if you tell them, oh, but look, we are working to get kids into trades and
Yeah.
things like that ish.
Right. Right.
So all of this is because it's all about the students, but what I'm saying is 95% of the stuff that comes my way
Right.
is all personnel
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
And no matter how many times I explain to somebody that we are not involved in any of that.
Yeah.
Or state laws and. state
Yes, that's
mandated
another
things.
one.
That is
That
like
was
the biggest
huge.
one.
That
Anything
was
state
huge
mandated,
here.
everybody thinks we can.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
override that.
But it's like, here are the words they let you choose from. You can choose what word you want in your document.
No, I mean, it is.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And that's not, that's a state, I mean, like, and I,
So-
it doesn't make it easier, but that is an everywhere issue. I mean, again, doesn't make it easier, but believe me, that is not unique. We saw that this last year and coming back with the, safe schools ready. I can't remember what now it was. With masks and with mandates and with other things that like a lot of folks felt like that this was the board making these decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we saw that everywhere. And with policies that you're also required to adopt, a lot of those words come from legislation
Mhm.
and people don't understand that. And they think that you are writing policy out of whole cloth, when really it's being, it's being handed to you in a lot of ways. And so common misconceptions doesn't make it any easier, but that is just a challenge that every board
Yeah.
faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is like the weapons one. Because now there's all these other schools going crazy and trying to get the boards to like, and ours was just like, let's not post that stuff. You know what I mean? We're like, let's try to give people ideas. And so like,
And it's.
you know what I mean?
I bet you if we posted anything, we'd have
Yes,
a million emails.
because then you get the crazies out there and
Yeah.
start
And
spewing that they.
I don't want to
can't.
send my kids to church because you guys have gun laws and gun requirements and it's posted on there.
And everybody else does it. But anyway,
anyway, sorry.
I'm
That's all right,
wondering if
that's all right.
maybe some of the terminology too has it, because we have been in COVID.
Yeah.
The kind of student data we had was more anecdotal.
Yeah,
It
For
wasn't
sure.
necessarily objective, and
Yeah.
so the board, we have not been thinking in that way for
Right.
the last 2.5
Right,
years. We've been
right.
thinking the other way.
yeah,
So,
right. Student data means something different right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not gonna have meaningful state data for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Right now, it's trash.
Mhm.
And who knows how long it will be.
you know, yeah,
Who knows?
now it's just kind of triage to make sure the kids get through
Right,
enough
right.
that they're comfortable enough that hopefully colleges are gonna start helping
Yes.
in them also.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine the last 2 years of kids that have gone into college,
Yeah.
how far they were.
Right. Right.
They were already behind when they first go there, they say.
Yeah.
50%, 50%, look
Right.
to your side, look over here. When you're there in those little things, 2 of you probably won't be there
Yeah.
when you graduate. So
Yeah.
after you've been the first year, they say that
Yeah.
a lot of them don't make the first year, so,
Yeah,
anyway, that's. not
Maybe
beyond
I,
myself, but-
maybe I can do a better job and the administrators on the team can do a better job of when we present something to the board. We say, we qualify it like, this is the student data we're using to make this decision or this recommendation. So that you, when you're hearing that more, then maybe it kind of, oh, then I can explain it. Well, no, we made that decision, or that decision was made because according to the high school, 85% of the kids were tardy after, whatever.
Right,
I wonder too, and I know I don't know, I wonder also if part of the monitoring is when Dandy, when you and your team are maybe reporting about or talking to the board about decisions that you've made or whatever, if those fit under your buckets of your strategic priorities,
Yeah,
like that those, and you may already do this, that those are, here's what we're doing and it fits under this.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
think a lot of our reports come that way.
and okay, so they're already
They're-
aligned.
We're already talking about why.
Okay,
this.
but that's just happened in the last year.
Right.
okay, okay.
So,
Correct,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what our.
So that's part of your monitoring. And
Yeah.
that's a really good, I mean, if you're doing that, then that's, then that's part of your thinking. That's, and if you're being asked to take action on something that's being reported to you, then that's part of how you're monitoring.
How we can dictate or tell customers, sorry, our public or parents, how to get that data.
Yeah.
So 'cause that is one thing there, like everybody's already stated there, they come because there's something wrong. And so,
Right.
no matter how many times you try to tell them to go, because go to the website, but it's too many steps, or I can't find it on the website. It's just too hard to get on. I can't even get onto the website, the things there. It's obstacle after obstacle. Yeah, exactly. I carry my phone 100 times a day. I'm looking at all kinds of stuff on there.
good.
But something that it just, I don't know, and I'm sure this is everywhere. To try to get the information out there as
Yeah, it's hard.
plainly and as easily accessible and other than what we've been doing, I don't know what else to do. And so I just, and yet in every survey we get, we're not informing the information from the board is not coming to folks. Somehow, in one way or another, it's how it ends up being. And things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think it's also been because of the COVID thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's been closed in and things
Yeah.
there. Now, we'll see. I mean, another.
Yeah, and this is an odd rebuilding year, right? So next
Yeah.
year, I mean, we are still normalizing.
Yes.
And so I, so I think it's also fair to contextualize this self-assessment. too, Right? You've got a number of new board members and this is a strange year that we're reflecting on.
Right.
And you're also in your own assessment doing really well. So, so I think, as you look to what can we do better, I think also capitalizing on your strengths is a good thing to do. So just to point out, because I have this information that and you don't, and you can see this in here. It's
Krista,
just,
will you email this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. yeah.
We already have it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. I'll
Um,
give it to you guys.
So, and we're talking about this now, so when I say incongruence, this is just where like you showed up here as, I looked at like ones where like you had a yellow, a blue and a green. Like I said, nobody put red for anything. So we're not looking at like all the colors of the rainbow and going, what? And again, somebody's developing, maybe somebody else's, almost always. So some of this is calibration. Some of this is maybe where you read a question differently. But what I just like to point out is you don't have to talk about every single one of these, but if there's something that comes out as like important, where you have questions like, hey, I think we do a pretty good job at this, or this is something that really sticks out to me as developing. These are just the areas where your thinking, at least on paper, appeared to be a little bit different, but it also looks like a few of these are in community, actually the first three, and you've just been discussing that, right? So my sense is obviously that community is tough, and frankly, in the time, and Henry, you've been here the entire time that I've been working with you, that has always been tough. It has always been tough for this community to understand the role of the board. So it's not been, this is not a short-term thing. It's not a brand new thing. It's just been tough. So board members being visible, outreach activities, accommodating cultural differences was one of the things that was just, I probably had yellow, green, and blue. Sustaining relationships with local community leaders. We already discussed that. That was one of the questions Danny pointed out in the beginning. Partnering with community and education, oh, I have a typo, organizations to remove barriers, right? Again, there's the question about like, what are the community organizations we don't already know of? This was one that was interesting. The board ensuring the superintendent and staff clearly understand their roles and responsibilities in creating and supporting a culture of high expectations and ensuring the superintendent holds staff accountable for this. And that's one of the things that you include on the superintendent evaluation. So I just point that out as an area of incongruence there. And then the last is that each board member understands the differences between the roles and responsibilities of the board and superintendent, which you gave yourselves overall on that standard very high marks. But that was one of one of the indicators that had some disagreement. So I put that up there as more detailed information. It's not overall information. And I will not say, let's dig into each and every one of these, but if you want to, if there are any of these that you want to flip through or discuss, I offer that at this point.
I do think though, the first three, with us establishing meeting together with the city council, will pretty much take care of the majority of those three bullets right there. And I think when I think about that, it's how we need to, or how we approach it as working together and not being so, it's like, please come in, tell us in our budgeting process, what you think we can cut, or please come in, let's look at the facilities so you can see what's going on out there. If you have a contractor that is approved from the states or what, I don't know all the details there, who is willing to come in and make a bid for these repairs that will come in 10 million less, please. I would love to hear that, right?
Yeah.
So it is just having that conversation and directing individuals to the webpage where we have all the information. And I think that's important. As long as we know where all the information is and we can articulate it and talk to them, that will take care of that.
100% agree.
So that is the information I dug out of this. Again, highly positive. And my last question to you is, what do you want to do with it? And we've kind of been talking through a little bit of it, but overall, and I can flip through and show you any of these slides again if you're like, oh, let me see the strengths, let me see whatever. I wonder if, and I'm just going to offer this, we don't have to do this in this order, if any of what we're looking at also intersects with these at all. If not, we're talking about this, you do not have to set specific goals on this tonight. Because my question is more open-ended than that. My question is, what do you want to do with it? And it could be, we want to sit on it and think about what professional development goals we want to, look at. But it could be, we want to, focus our strengths and or use some areas of improvement. Because I know that part with what's on our agenda is looking at this.
So yeah, these were obviously it says goals for last year.
Yeah.
And the board selected those kind of based on what was in year one of the strategic plan. And so year two of the strategic plan is going to be up from the printer Thursday, but I have the year two performance indicators and
Okay.
metrics, so we can pass those out and look
Okay.
at them too. If you guys wanted to do that, so if you just wanted to take one and pass it around.
Oh, this is helpful.
Want your glasses? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we're almost twins.
You are, yeah, you are, but you're opposite, look, your top are opposite, your shoes are opposite. Oh, that's pretty cute. The other piece I have here is the summary that we had going back and forth about, summarizing the project.
Yes.
So I could pass that out, because I think if you look at the summary and then you're gonna kind of identify a couple of goals that kind of naturally
Yeah.
make sense in relation
Yeah.
to the strategic plan. So this was after we couldn't just make the bond your project.
We had to say no.
They said no on that.
Sorry. Sorry.
But
Don't we make our own rules?
if you look at that last paragraph that's in bold there, it does talk about your community engagement strategies and projects, which would then ultimately, like, it would talk about some of these things that you were trying to improve on, and it also serves to work. Goal number 4 on the strategic plan. And then the other piece of this is that you're gonna have a presentation on Thursday at our board meeting from Raul Gomez and the ELD and Creighton Helms from the English Language Learners Department about our kids that end up, the ones that are not able to exit ELD. If they don't do it in 4 years, they become forever ELLs, like what our data is telling us on that, and how we're really making this push at all grade levels to get those kids exited. And especially in the particular category of oral fluency. So our older kids, they don't speak they don't have the confidence to speak. And we know that when they're able to speak about content, they have a deeper understanding. And then with that, we've also put money out of ESSER 3 into a title teacher to help with the reading piece. So that could be part of your using the student data to be focused on the decisions that you're making. There's always some more difficult budget decisions in the spring.
Talks about this being an area of focus. Danny and I talked about this quite a bit. And in terms of this being a project that impacts student performance. In my opinion, this is a really good project for the board because it will give you additional information. I love that you have a presentation on the 18th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Coming about this data, which starts to get you then informed about like who the kids are, the impact on their learning. And then, you know, so then if this works for you as a project, then together, I think we look at and together with your team, if they can start coming to these meetings, you know, like what are the implications of the decisions that you make around this? So like, you know, is your administrative team going to ask for a PD? What is the lens that you can use on your budget with respect to this? Are there policy implications? Are there, I mean, clearly here, there are community engagement implications here. You know, what else? Are there program implications? And, you know, obviously your team will have a lot more ideas than I do, but I think that that would be part of those discussions as we do that work in sessions. And in the end, I think that you would be, well, depending on when we end, you know, we could also time this for budget season, but you would be maybe prepared to, in your role as a board, address some of these things going forward with the decisions that you would be asked to be making to better support these students. And maybe have a plan to, you know, engage the community specific to this plan and whatever budget implications may come out of it. Does that sound right, David?
Yeah, and then they can also use like they came up with a really wonderful resolution, on inclusion and access.
Uh-huh.
And then based on the resolution, then the administrative team is tasked with putting together a process for implementation. Like how do we use the resolution to look at every decision that they make at the building level or program level. So with your resolution in mind, how does everything you do impact our ELD kids? And then, you know, any conference you go to, I mean, there's always a component that talks about inclusion or and
Are they
ELD.
going to convention?
I don't know. we haven't talked about that yet. I was gonna.
Okay, well, registration's not open, so we know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm already living convention. but
Yeah.
Nobody else is.
Are you talking about?
The November one.
Yeah, November 1, which is a minute away for me, but not for you.
No, I think it's already. It's
Bye,
already- Anyway, I don't know how we wouldn't want to do this. It's been something that was identified as a key problem for our kids.
100%, especially in
I
our district.
Yeah, I mean,
This is great.
this is exactly
Exactly.
what, yeah,
It's exactly the kind of work
I love
Love
it. Else? Thoughts?
So you have a regular board meeting on Thursday night where in one of the discussion section, we are talking about your goals. So if there's pieces that you want to piecemeal together at that time, we could go draft that night and for consideration at the September meeting. Or as a board, you could decide to appoint 1 or 2 people to work on that. That can be your wordsmith, and then we can bring it back in September. So plant that bug in your.
And so I think, yeah, I mean, as we just to reiterate. That. If we're talking about monitoring strategic goals. If we're talking about establishing performance goals for yourself, that's here. If you're talking about communicating to the public. And I think this all goes toward, right? I mean, this is a longer standing thing, but everything that you do, particular to monitoring, promotes a vision beyond the current performance. I mean, you're talking about trying to help a group of students that is not, currently getting the best. And you're promoting a vision for them beyond current performance. So I think that like all of those areas of improvement are embedded within this project.
Yeah.
And let's look at your strengths just for a second to see how those fit in too. If you're modeling an empowered leadership style, which you say that you do well, and you're focusing on student learning in alignment with your strategic goals, which you say you do well, and then we've got, you're operating efficiently. Those first two specifically, if those are strengths of yours, are also going to come into play in this project as well. Because that will take leadership and focus on student learning. We always want to celebrate strengths, right? In education, we always find areas to criticize ourselves. We have to celebrate strengths as well.
I'd like to suggest maybe something like, the board doesn't put out like an informational piece to the community. And so maybe even if it's just a one-page front and back, where it's actually like a page and a quarter because you fold it and one side's the mailer. Maybe you do something once every 3 months or once every 2 months that's just called board focus. And it talks about what is the role of a board member? What did we work on this quarter? What are our goals? Why did we set this goal?
Putting it like on a specific page for the web page, or are you talking about like an actual like mail out?
An actual mail out,
Okay,
like to all 4,000 registered voters in our school district.
okay, that's.
I think that's kind of cool.
I
think that'd
like
be-
that idea. If
that's like
nothing
cool.
else, it may open up people that want to maybe join the board. And
Or
people-
budget committee, when
And
it's,
just start getting involved, get involved in your.
Or even
community
coming to
thing.
the meetings,
Thank you. So-
just even showing
Yeah.
up.
And seeing what it's all about. so.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I like that.
I do
Okay.
too.
Last night there was, not last night, but when we had the community
Mhm.
block party. There was a couple of, community members said, how do we do to join, the board or school or whatever? Just show up at the meetings,
Mhm.
show at the meetings or talk
Look
to the
online.
superintendent.
Yeah.
Because they said the same thing as what Henry said, that, I can't find it on the web. I can't do this and do that. So I just told them, go to the meeting. It's a lot easier. And there's a spot that if you want to ask questions, you can either talk to Dandy afterwards or just sign your name and they'll ask for your name. But one of them said that they talked to you, so,
I don't,
I mean, not about
Yeah.
that, but
maybe that's why I got the email I got from that patron. So I met a person at the Saturday market that we did in the spring, and she is an educational consultant. She and her husband have moved into the community.
is she kind of Oriental?
That's why she emailed me.
Giselda or something.
I can't remember what her name is.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not her. No.
So that explains because she was gonna reach out to me after Saturday market last spring, and then I never heard from her. But then I got an email from her this weekend, so there you go.
So when I go to city council meetings, I go to their website and find the Zoom link or
Mhm.
whatever. We have the exact same thing. What about sending out, like our app that we have?
Mhm.
What about sending out an email prior to our meetings that
Do we do
that
that?
has the link?
The Zoom link?
So it doesn't go on the app. I could include that.
Yeah, include the app.
Yeah, because usually it just gets posted on our tab.
Yeah.
And on the
But that's a good idea there.
Yeah,
Cause then they could just,
then it's
Click
there.
on it
boom,
and it's
boom,
there.
boom.
Yeah.
It'd be a little quick, even, they
So-
can never complain again, then, never.
No one ever would.
But, you know.
No one will ever complain again.
Okay, I will work very hard. Devin.
I mean,
Okay.
I know that's just like one other thing on your plate and stuff like that, but it really is an easy thing for the folks to
Especially if
just
they
go
have-
in
if
and,
they have the app.
yeah,
Big
you
time.
know.
Also, we probably, I mean, never had translation in Spanish if we want more community members involved. Targeting, having it translated. I mean, I don't know how we go
City
about that.
council is looking at doing minutes in Spanish and they're looking at, I don't know if it's like a software program or what. So that's I doubt that there are any, I don't know that people would go out there and be like, yes, I'd like to see what the board minutes are. You know what I mean, in Spanish. But however, if we're trying to be inclusive and, you know, for our community, right? And personally, I would, if we do it in Spanish, it seems like it would be appropriate to do it in Russian, but that's a lot of work. So again,
I feel
what
like
does that
nobody
look
reads
like?
in Russian. Like they do, but they only read this, like the Bible.
Well, to be honest with you, with Spanish, our generation is not like the kids that are coming in. Half the Hispanic kids are actually failing the Spanish class.
Yeah,
And part of it is,
my kids did better at Spanish than they did at Russian classes.
yeah, and so they're losing that ability. But what I tell people is, you know, it's like you've been speaking English your whole life, but you've never learned to read or write in English. And all of a sudden, one day you're told, you know, hey, you should know how to, you don't, you're starting from the basics. And the other thing that I've noticed is we seem to have like fallen down on the job when it comes to like grammar and punctuation and all those things.
Biggest
And you
complaint
have to
ever for
know-
me.
You have to be able to diagram a sentence. If you understand the English language and how it works in that way, then it's so easy to apply in Spanish, because Spanish is so easy to learn. I mean, unlike English, where it's like, it's spelled the way it sounds, you know what I mean? And those types of things. So that's what I notice in our community, and that we're losing that, you know, and these poor kids are going in there and they're like, oh, dang, I got a C or a D in Spanish. And it's like, it's embarrassing for them too, because it's like everybody, you know, assumes that they're gonna be good at it and know how to do it. And it's like, no, again, you have to start with those basics, and the basics are fundamentally in the diagramming of sentences and trying to understand that. And that's a problem. I mean, we got people kiddos that don't even, they're not really reading. You know, I've been watching some of this stuff and I'm just like, I don't know how in the world we have all these kids in pause and how they're doing couple classes, and it's like,
Yeah, they don't read books anymore. And that teaches grammar.
Yeah.
That they see where the periods are. with
the
punctuation.
texting is atrocious.
Right now. Can't even-
They're not even texting, they talking.
We can translate the minutes. That's one thing that Sandra and I talked about, like, how would we do that? The idea is that, once you approved the minutes for that month, then we can send it over to this Linguava company that will do it all for us.
Oh, Linguava does it?
You have to pay them a fee, but I've built money into the SIA.
I'm
budget
familiar with it.
for that, so we have money to do that if that's a priority for the board. Which would engage your community.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I guess if you post it, that's what, I don't know, you do. Yeah.
we post the packet.
Post
here,
it, you
right?
just post it the same
It's
way
just
as
the board
everybody else,
notice
so.
that
Yeah, the
I
board notice.
translated
No,
it
you'd
in
say
Spanish.
this next.
It's just the minutes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the board notice, it's in Spanish.
Yes,
It gets posted, but not the. minutes.
Not the
No,
minutes, but we're
but-
talking
do that.
about.
if you start doing that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
at least we can say we are doing it.
Yeah.
And pump it out. Pump it out on the app.
Mhm.
Send a link to the minutes in
Mhm.
English and Spanish. So they have that. I mean, the best part, I think the biggest strength that we have, and it starts with our superintendent, is that we've been transparent. That's why we don't have the issues that all these other
Mhm.
areas are having, because we've been transparent and we will continue to do that. And at some point, they'll understand that we're not hiding anything. No, I mean, seriously, like,
I agree.
and there's like a few really loud people that think that we're, you know, that we're trying to, I'm not, whatever. And anyways, you guys know. And so I'm just saying, let's give them all this information and then it's up to them to decide, you know, whether they're willing to participate and whether they're gonna take the initiative.
But you can at least then say it's out there.
We did, this. Yeah, here it is.
Just like the curriculum is
Just-
online. Please go look at it.
A matter of fact, we all need to go and look. And a matter of fact, one of the things that I think we should do is maybe take pieces of it, each one of us, and go and look so that we can be prepared for when somebody comes to challenge us on that, you know?
Why do we
And-
have to-
No, that's what it's been stated, like, I don't know where to find it. I'm just saying, no, we do, but when they come, they're like,
I know.
they'll
Well,
come
we should
in.
know something about it. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
So that's my personal goal, is to go in there and like at least start looking at all that.
Here's our beautiful website. Would you like to know something about the bond? Right there it is. This is where the people couldn't find any information about the bond.
The internet button.
So this was super helpful for me because I was like, oh, look at that. We have like 9 videos. And I went and looked at all of them and did the,
In English and Spanish
I did that
subtitles.
too, and I even did the calculator.
yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I shared this link on Facebook
Me too, because I kept being told that
over and over again.
so expensive and you're calculating it wrong. And I'm like,
It's really cute.
No weapons were used.
Right. No, it's totally cute.
So,
So for the purposes of this project.
Yeah, sorry,
I
we
wonder-
keep-
No, you're fine, you're fine. I wonder if, after your meeting on, because I don't think we have enough info yet to plan the next 3 sessions, but I think that you will have enough info to plan the structure of the next one after Thursday.
Mhm.
And I wonder if you and I
Yeah.
should connect after Thursday so that I can get the info that you get. And then also get the gist of the conversation.
Mhm.
And then we can plan as far as, you know, who might be at the meeting, like what, you know, sort of like. What is next for, what does it look like to then involve you in a way that, you know, that looks at maybe working with the DLT or breaking into small groups or, you know, something like that, that again is still addressing what's the board's role now that you have a bunch of data and information.
Well, and I
So-
think that when Raul and Creighton present, that'll be a great time for you guys to ask questions
Yeah.
about. Like, what do they think are the next steps? What do they think?
Yeah,
What support are they going to need? What, you know, that,
right.
it'll be about a 15 or 20-minute presentation.
Yeah. And then you and I can connect and we can think about
Yeah.
what that looks like.
Okay.
Okay. That's exciting.
No.
Where's the curriculum on here? Is it under the teaching?
Teaching and learning.
That's what I thought.
And Bonnie's working on it right now, so it's down right now.
Oh, okay.
She's uploading the rest of the documents.
Your website looks great.
You
You redid this, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't this like a
it's-
big redo?
Yes.
Yes.
We did it last year.
Gorgeous.
It's,
It's simpler, it's.
Yeah, it's
No,
so
but it's
easy
really-
to.
It's really easy to look at.
yeah,
And it's
right?
visually pleasing.
It is. And look,
And
you
not
can
overwhelming.
translate it
I
into any
saw-
language you like.
That's wonderful.
Out of here. You hurrah.
Wow.
That last one.
Yeah, Swahili.
Awesome.
That's great. So, so that's what I have for you tonight is to go over your board self-assessment, to try and integrate that into your plan, which we did, to look at your goals, that those are gonna align with what you want to do this year, and then to sort of sketch out, I mean, obviously to get approval on what you wanted to do for your project, which you, I'm not formal people, you're not voting on anything, which you gave. And so that was the work that you have with me tonight. Is there anything that you need from me? Planning session is short, so this is not meant to be a 3-hour session, which I know hurts your feelings.
No, I think we're just headed in the right direction on
Yeah.
what we're gonna do.
This will be good. This is a fun thing to do and a good work and a good thing to do for those of you that haven't done this before. So, and I always look forward to working with you all. Again. I just stopped by on my way home. Do you remember the year that I just like gave you like extra sessions and you kept saying like, when are we done? When are we done? And I was like, well, we have 6 sessions. And you were like, no, we were supposed to have 4. I was like, what? I just kept stopping by on my way home. Just kept coming by. I'm like, oh no. But okay. They got tired of me.
Okay, so yeah, I'm taking Friday off.
I also we're closed on Friday.
Close on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will get with you next week.
Yeah.
After we have our board meeting. on Thursday.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to
Thank
see you
you.
in person.
Thank you.
And great, I'll get out of your way. Thank you for everything and we'll keep working.
Hopefully there's no traffic on the way back.
Oh my goodness, I know. I'm like, I had like 3 apps going to see which one would take me the fastest way. It was insane.
You come from north?
I was coming from, Tualatin, and it took me an hour and a half to get here.
I was downtown Portland at 5.
Oh.
Oregon City, and instead of going through the tunnel, they took me up on the top, over the top, then dropped me down on
You
the
may have gone
side of the
better
tunnel
with-
where that little barrier is. the
Yes.
little
Yeah,
barrier.
yeah.
It dropped you off there. I've never been up on top there. It is.
Oh, you've
cool
done,
up there.
well, I've run the stairs there every Friday. It's horrible.
What stairs?
There's the Oregon City stairs. They go from like the base of that
Yes.
mountain up to the stairs.
Oh,
And you do that
so you go up, down to the river and up?
Because I have a trainer, like.
Oh, my gosh.
I do that on purpose. Good for me. Well, Henry, I just had one last thing. So,
Sure.
I don't know if you got a copy of the survey results from, it's a packet. Did you get a copy? Andrew? It goes for Thursday's meeting. I just
Oh,
want
I
to
know,
make sure you
I
all
did.
had a hard copy.
This one.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Did you get a copy, Sandra?
I did.
There, so, basically, that was just the Survey Monkey that we put out. You may have seen the link on Facebook and passed around on different social media sites. So I printed, we had 78 responses. The last couple responses came in last week. So I've gone ahead and closed that. But I thought that you might want to have time to take a look at that in the next couple of days before we get to our meeting on Thursday. Because we have that for discussion.
Yeah.
And then you can just kind of make a note of things that you saw, or you wondered, or, whatever. And then I'll have some other things to share at the meeting on Thursday. So I just wanted you to have that a little bit ahead of time.
Thank you.
It is. There was one page on page 17 or 18, I can't remember what number it is. You'll see a big black line. The comment was completely inappropriate, so I just blacked it out. Not helpful.
Sure. Oh, pretty bold on the internet, aren't they?
Well, especially if it's a survey, because
Right.
nobody knows who they are.
Right,
They
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
say
exactly.
whatever.
And the one thing that I did do, like you'll notice that there's a comment in here that says, well, this survey is just a reiteration of the things that we already do from the materials that you published. Well, I did that by design because I wanted to see how many people did not read any of the information. And so, for instance, the assessed value versus market value. I mean, there are, probably 21 people on here who didn't know the difference on what it was. And then other people didn't know as a renter, how would that impact me? So I just wanted to get, like, we put it out there, did they read it?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Or was it written in a way that they understood it? Maybe it wasn't written very well. So. That's all I have.
Okay, well, so we're done? Okay, cool.
We're Well, done. We're adjourned. We do want the fancy word.